and welcome to this Livefika with Swedes worldwide. My name is Cecilia Borglund and I'm the Secretary General. Swedes Worldwide is a non-profit organization. It's also politically independent, and we have for over 85 years been supporting Swedes who wants to study, work or live abroad, but also move back again. And we do that by advocacy work and also by providing information, guidance and support. We also run a dedicated program for accompanying family members because we know that their journey matters just as much as the others. And today we are delighted to once again welcome career coach David Wallensteen Bergknut. You're so welcome. And for the upcoming 45 minutes, we will talk about career coaching and how to set plans, goals, and whatever you need to know. And this is a golden opportunity for you guys to ask your questions. And there are no such thing as stupid or irrelevant questions. Just raise your digital hand and the floor will be yours. All right. Once again, welcome, David. So whereabout in the world are you?
Right now, we are living in Brazil, and it's actually the second time we live in Brazil. We lived here 20 years ago as well.
Nice. So how is Brazil at the moment?
It's good. It's starting to become spring here, so that we hope it's the end of the dry season. It's very dry right now, so we have a lot of wildfires going around right now. So we're looking forward to the rainy season, but it's a bit more than a month to go for the start.
Okay. But well, you're not here because of letting us know about the Brazil weather, even though we liked it. We are so delighted that you are here because you are have so much experience from being a coach, a career coach, and we will pick your brain about this topic. So could you just start? What can a career coach actually do to support someone professionally? And what kind of types of guidance tend to be most valuable, would you say?
It's a very good question. And I think one thing is to have a speaking partner, someone that challenges you, how you think about your thought process. So it's very much a process support to be a coach. And it's about helping people to find their way and to set their goals. And I always start when I have a new client, at least with a 1 hour conversation to understand where are they at in their life, where are they thinking, and am I the right person to support them on their journey? And I also step in very differently depending on where they are in the journeys. Some I start from scratch, they need to find their vision and mission, where they want to go. Others, they are in the process to applying for jobs. So for them, I've been helping them, to see how can they optimize their opportunities to get to job interviews? How can they prepare to really get the job they want? So it depends a bit, but it's so much about the dialogue and to stimulate the conversation. And for the candidates that I work with, their self-reflection. And that's super important on the journey.
So you basically help your client to reflect and dig into their minds, as well as being quite concrete, and you do this and you don't do that.
Yeah, I see it as a journey, and depending on where they are in the journey, I want them to set the clear guidelines of where do you want to go, and to become very concrete about it in the end. So sometimes it's a journey before they end up on which is the real goals right now. What is really important in their life here and now, and how do they see the next coming year or years of where they want to go? And research shows also it's so strong that you actually define your goals and you write it down to be able to realize them. You increase it with many, many percent that you will realize a goal if you just have written it down. So sometimes it can be so simple that the tools that you use, that you write it down.
But before being able to write it down, you have to actually figure out what your goal would be.
Yes.
And how can you help like someone to actually find their goals? Do you have any specific methods or techniques, or how do you do it?
I use the perspective of positive psychology and the growth perspective. So it's scientifically based approaches that I use. And I use a lot of exercises that you get. So we might have a session of maybe an hour, and then they get exercises to work on themselves. It can be value related. It can be what kind of work environment they would like to be in. It could be looking at their strength. So, but I try to use scientifically based tool all the time. So you have to work yourself as a client. You know, I can be a sparring partner for them, but they have to do the job to be able to find a path moving forward.
And sometimes it's really valuable to have someone to, you know, bounce your thoughts with, because sometimes they can sort of get stuck in your head. And do you also, we just talked just before we started this Livefika, it's so easy to start thinking negative thoughts. And could you just describe what, if you are occupied with your negative thoughts, what could that do in terms of reaching out for a job, etc.?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges we all have as human beings is our own negative self-talk. It's a negative self-talk that we all have that actually are keeping us back from actually doing what we many times would like to do, and we often have actually the capacity to do. So we need sometimes to put ourselves in a different mode. And then the negative self-talk is so related to how our mind are wired. It links to the flight and fight perspective. And that narrows our way of thinking our own capabilities and capacities as an individual. So we need to go to what's called, the love perspective, the love dimension. It sounds a bit superficial, but it's not. It's really based on science, how the brain works, because you want to get into a mode where you are confident, where you feel good, where you see opportunities. And when you put yourself in that context, you are much more receivable of your own growth and development, but also to look and see opportunities. And the interesting thing is, depends on what mood you're in, it also have a huge impact on what you're signaling to the people around you as well. So you want people to go to, for example, a job interview with a good mindset where they look at themselves in a positive way, because that will inspire people also around them. Instead of that you go to a job interview and you feel small and you feel like, have a lot of negative self-talk, it will not sell yourself very well in that situation.
But that is also it, when you say that loud and clear, it sounds so of course it's like that, but it is hard if you have someone on your shoulder telling you something totally different. Oh, you haven't had a job for years. Oh, you moved to another country. And it's your partner having this job, so who are you really? How do you do it?
It's a lot of things that you can do and work with yourself. And one thing that a lot of research shows is what kind of positive behaviors, what kind of routines do you set up for yourself to optimize your opportunities to be successful. And it can be simple things, what is your evening routine when you wind down for the evening? What's your morning routine? And what shows in research that is really beneficial is meditation. And meditation for some people can sound big, but it doesn't have to be big. It can be breathing exercises that you do 2 minutes in the morning when you're woken up. Doesn't need to be more than that sometimes. So, but you need to set yourself up for success yourself, because no one else will do it.
And would you say, what would be a fast track to get into this love mood? Are we talking about days, weeks, months?
Well, I think the interesting thing, is always available 24/7. So you can always do something here and now. You don't need to wait. And one thing is that also sometimes you can go small, because making changes and transform things is usually not a quick fix. Some things you can change quickly, but go small. But the thing is, it's the persistence that will give the impact in the end. So the interesting thing is when you create and change habits and routines, when you are able to keep up to them, it will also have a positive impact on your brain. So it will change the neural connections in your brain as well, by changing the habits and keeping the habits over time.
Okay, interesting. Guys, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate. Raise your digital hand, and I will give you the word and the opportunity to ask David the question. Before that, I would ask you, could you please give us what would be a practical first step for someone who feels stuck in their current role and is uncertain about the next move? It all starts with a feeling. So what would be the next step?
I think, again, one thing you can do, and sometimes when you're in a company spouse, like I am as well, we have an abundance of time in one perspective, but it's thinking around, what do we really want? And sometimes that can be challenging. But sometimes you can start in a mind map. What is it? What's important in your life here and now? And start in that end to see where you would like to go. Because sometimes when I work with some clients, I can give one example. She had a professional background, and she worked in a profession for all her career, basically. She trying to combine it when she'd been a spouse. But when I started to work with her, it was difficult for her to really go back, even if she could go back to her original career. And I thought when I started working on that, she might go back. I think she might find a way, how to go back. But in the process that we had the dialogues, we had the exercises that she did in between the sessions, she actually decided in the end she would follow, and she started up a business based in one of her hobbies. She had a hobby for a long time, but she haven't really realized that that could actually be her full-time job, because that she more easily could combine with her life of being a spouse. Sometimes it depends where you live, but sometimes being the spouse comes with more responsibility for the home and the kids, and if you have the dog, not necessarily, sometimes. And you need to find that kind of balance. So she found a completely different path for her than I originally thought when I started working with her.
That is interesting. So it could be wider. Your path going forward could be a different one, definitely, than you actually thought it would be.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And I think let yourself explore and see, what are you really interested in, but also find the balance. What's important for you? What is really important for you in life here and now? And that will also change over time. We will not be stuck. And I think that's the interesting thing with how things are moving in the world around us right now. Our kids, that will be graduating, they will not have one career like many of us have had before. They will have like 5 careers at least. So they will have to change and switch and be more open-minded than we have been historically.
Interesting. So if we're talking about world rapidly changing in terms of how we would work moving on, and how a question here that we got: how can people stay committed to their long-term ambitions while adapting to a rapidly changing workplace? That is also tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. At the same time, the humans and the human mind are so adaptable, so we can we can adapt. But of course, things are changing faster than it have been in some areas, for sure. And there's where our values comes in. You know, we all have developed our own set of values, which are quite deeply founded within us. And it's important to find a work, if it's individual or in organizations and companies, where you feel that your values are in correspondence to the values for the organization that you work for. Because violate and not feeling in line with the values that you have for the company or organization you work for would be very tricky for you to be a high performer. You will not feel happy going to job every day. So that's important, and that will stay the same. So thinking and seeing about your values is important. And then I think it's about curiosity, you know, to be curious about what's going on and how you can adapt to the changing world. And I heard one very successful businesswoman the other day that's, you know, been able to super successful. And I think she had been very, very dedicated for a long period of time. And also to find and use what's her natural good skills, you know, where is she naturally great and good at, and focus on that. And through that and dedication over time, she's really been able to grow up and be successful in big companies and to run them successfully.
And do you have any suggestions on how would you, like if you are on a job and you don't feel that you, the workplace doesn't use you the way you have more capacity than you are actually can show and use, and therefore you could be a bit bored. What would be the best step to take to trying to release that capacity at work? What would you say?
I think one thing, you know, and that's an advice I give to people: make sure you have a good manager when you switch job, because the kind of leader and manager you will have will be quite instrumental to what kind of development and growth perspectives that you will be able to have. So be able to have a good, you know, open conversation with your leader and manager that you have is very important, because that will open up. Then you can be honest, you know, if you feel that you're bored, you have more to give, that you can get opportunities to do on-the-job training, because historically the majority of learning have been done that you take on a new job, you know, you become a project leader for something, or you drive a specific campaign that you learn so much from. And again, think around where are you good and great at, and that's something that we usually learn over time. What comes easily, naturally good for us, you know, where do we overperform, and it doesn't feel like a high stake or high level of work for us, because we like it so much and we're naturally good at it. But I think, going back to your question, I think to be able to have people around you that you can have a good dialogue with. And if you're in an organization, of course, your direct manager is important to have.
And sometimes you're not that lucky, because you're the management, or you're the boss that you are actually having might not be an easy person to talk to. Without, I guess the answer will be yes from you from this question. Would a career coach, a coach to talk about it before you actually go to your boss, would that help, so you could actually practice on what to say, get some good advice?
Yeah, absolutely. That could be one solution that, you know, one solution that you can do, because that then you also can think around how you view your boss and your manager. what kind of responses have you had historically from them? How do they act? So that you can prepare your pitch in a way that hopefully goes with their thinking in a positive way. I think it's an extreme example, but I think, if you look globally on the news, how people pitch things towards Donald Trump in the US right now, they don't pitch it in a way that they maybe would have liked to. They pitch it in a way to be able to have an impact. And that would be the thing. If you don't have a good manager, it's how can you pitch the things that you would like to pitch so that you think that it could have an impact. But at the same time, you need to be honest. I've had managers that I haven't felt completely confident with that have come in. And then I've left, I left the organization, left the company, moved elsewhere because I feel this is not the place for me. I will not get the kind of stimulation or that I need or support that I need to be able to get to be successful in the role that I have. And I've been working at big companies as HR manager before. I worked for the Red Cross. I worked for Tetra Pak. I worked for Ericsson. I was part of the change process of the Karolinska University Hospital. And when I have been really successful and I have had a big impact, I always have had a very good manager to support me. And not the least, a good team. I think, and we worked a lot on that at the Karolinska University Hospital transformation process. We were a really good team of HR managers that worked together. And we coached actually structurally one another on challenges that appeared in the process. So that, it's interesting, and it's a sidetrack, but now looking back and seeing how being part of that process or have been part of that process and looking back and all the news articles that came out and still comes out of that hospital, you would think that it's not that very well functioning. And then I read, a few months ago that it's ranked as the third best hospitals globally, worldwide. It's quite amazing. But I also learned a lot about transformation and change process. And it's almost all about human beings and our mindset. What makes us successful in transforming and changing.
Okay. Another issue that could occur whilst you are doing your career is that you want to achieve this and that, but you get stress-related symptoms. How could you? Do you have any advice how to not end up in that situation? And if you end up in that situation, what would be the best way of handling that? What would you say?
And it's interesting because people don't reflect maybe so often about it, but you can have stress-related symptoms and become ill, even as unemployed, because just being in a certain situation can be extremely stressful. And I think you need to use a holistic perspective and also be kind to yourself to try to avoid getting into a stressful situation or to get out of it. Sometimes, of course, it is helpful to ask for support, and it depends on what is the trigger factors. Sometimes you might be helpful to have a psychologist. Sometimes it could be good friends or a coach that you use. So it depends a bit the situation that you have ended up in. But also from the holistic perspective is, it's always important the number of hours that you sleep, to make sure that you have good sleep. It is important of physical activity, and that shows in more and more research the huge impact physical activity have on your body, but not least on your brain. It actually have the biggest positive impact on your brain as well. And it doesn't have to be so complicated. And I think that's also a thing that sometimes we as humans, we make things too complicated to us. Instead of breaking things down and do the small steps, do small things and build small habits that we can actually continue using. I don't know if that answered your question about, how to avoid being stressed, but I think, and also sometimes to put yourself in a different context. What I do here also, I do some different kind of networking. And I have different kind of groups that I meet up with. We have a Nordic spouses lunch group that meets up. The majority of us are working. That's super inspiring, good vibes, good inspiration. We have a group of spouses to heads of missions, the male ones, the men spouses of heads of missions that meets up. And it's great conversation and a lot of energy that you can get from those kind of conversations. So also to find networks and people that support you is also important, because stress is also caused that, it's the negative self-talk that we have in our brain. And sometimes just to talk to other people around it about it would be a relief. And you will get different perspectives as well.
So network would be a big help to not only to reach out and get to know people, but also good to kind to yourself, and so you can bounce back thoughts and with others. It's also, networking is also important for career growth. And how do you build authentic and long-lasting networks? I know that people tend to think it's terrible or it's really, really hard to get into Sweden. Number one, to actually get into Sweden, but also find friends and build a network in Sweden, because we are known to be quite cold, or we are known to be, have our hands full with careers and our friends and whatever. Could you talk a little bit about how do you actually find a network and make it grow and be part of a network, no matter if it's in Sweden or Brazil or wherever? What would be the key and things to do and don't do?
Yeah. I think, again, going back to curiosity and interest, to see what is it out there that you are interested in, and what do you want to get out of it as well, as building network. And I feel that you can definitely grow long-lasting relationships based on the network that you get into. And there are also many opportunities. If I look back in my own career, kind of networks that I have used for myself, and it's both professional but also personally. Rotary International is one network. It's a professional, but it's not more than a professional network. So I would actually, through No Rotary, the first time traveled in Brazil. I was on an exchange with them from many, many years ago. And also the first time we moved to Brazil, I realized, I need to learn the language better. I had very rudimental knowledge of Portuguese at the time. So I joined the Brazilian NGO. And for me, it was, I had to speak the language. I had to learn the language to be able to participate in meetings in the NGO, at the NGO. But also made me create a great network of people that I have and still have gone back to now when we moved back 20 years later. So networking is important, and I was experimenting with other network. We have a quite recent new experiment. So we are from different countries, and we are trying to set up a business network, people that are starting or are driving a small business here in Brazil, but come from different parts of the world. And we ourselves, we come from Sweden, and we come from UK, and we come from the US, the Philippines, and we are experimenting. We don't do big things, but small things, and see, okay, where do people align? Where is an interest? Where can we make a difference for people? And for us, driving a network, of course, it's beneficial for us just having the bouncing partners around us. But to experiment, you don't need to make things so complicated sometimes. And a lot of development and growth, also in big organization, comes from experimenting. Set up small experiments. Doesn't need to be big. Do small things and see. And an experiment can go well and it can fail, but you will always learn something from it. But you do something. You're not passive waiting. You do something, and I think that's also an important thing that you need to take action. Because how many books have not been written because people have just thought about it, but they have never started doing it? How many companies have not been started because people have thought about it, they should do it, they would do it, but they don't start? You need to start taking action. And I think, coming back to one of your previous questions about making a plan, is the plan is your kind of compass. It sets your direction. But it's very seldom a plan have a very straight path to get there. It's up and down, back and forwards. But it sets your direction. But you need then to experiment and try things out to be able to achieve your goal in the end. And you break down your big goals to activities that you actually can take on from day to day. Because that's actually which will propel you, will move you forward, is doing and taking actions.
And you need to take actions because there's no one else that will most likely come and grab you and do this and that. You have to really push yourself, but you could do it in tiny steps. It doesn't get, because not everyone is outspoken and outgoing. What do you say to people who really find it terrifying, walking up to someone that you don't know and hello, I'm Cecilia, and introduce yourself? What can do you have any advice for those people who are more introverts, and how to actually try to what?
It's a good question, and I think again is sometimes we make things a bit black and white. We introvert or extrovert. But the interesting thing is we both have all of us have both within us, the introversion and extroversion. Usually one part is more naturally easier for us, but it doesn't mean we don't have the other part. It might need that we need to spend more time on developing it and finding our own approach towards this. And for example, if you work with topics, I was local employed when I lived in Ethiopia many times a year ago, working with the healthcare system, because we have had a clinic linked to the embassy that we closed at the time. So I was helping with an alternative, what can we set up to be able to secure the healthcare, because that was vital to be having a family posting that you actually could access secure healthcare at the time. So I used all the official events that you have, all the representations you go to for a drink or a dinner, to target people that I wanted or needed to talk to. It could be a medical doctor from another country, or could be some embassy staff. So sometimes if you have a purpose when you go out socializing in these events as an expat, but that you set yourself up at least to do one thing, it's one person or one thing that you want to bring out or get out from that event, it becomes more meaningful. Because some of these events are honestly not that fulfilling all the time. But you need to find your strategy. And if it's really important for you, you will do things. So again, it's about selecting and finding your path and identifying what's important for you. But if it's really important, you will take actions. So setting the plan or the direction you want to go, your compass, it needs to relate to things that is really important for you. Because then you will more probably be able to take more actions. And that also comes in social situations. And a lot of people that you see, in public that you might think is quite extrovert, it's actually a learned behavior. They learn things, how to behave. And you can train that. You can train it. And today, with today's technology, you can train yourself as well, record yourself making the presentation. Or you can have specific coaches that are great in presentation technique. Or you have people that are good in giving advice about how do you do official networking at official events. But there are so many opportunities today that one can explore to use as resources for yourself.
So use them.
Yes, use them and try, test things out.
Yeah, it's very unlikely that you will drop dead when you try it. Right. It's like nothing's going to happen.
But you know, it's your flight and fear mode that might kick in that holds you back. But you can always overcome that.
Can you please tell us a little bit, because you have had you know, fantastic jobs. You talked about some of them. And now you are a spouse living in Brazil. How would you how can you, from your own experience, explain the journey that you have been doing, and what were your fears and hopes? And because I know that there are a few people that are actually in the same situation as you are, or will be in the same situation. And could you just walk them sort of through your experience and your thoughts? Has it always been super positive? Were you from day one thought it was amazing, and or not?
It's a good question, and it's so dual in a way, because it depends on who looking at my life. So from many perspectives, we have an extremely privileged life, being out as a diplomatic family. You know, things are organized in some parts, but in other parts, it's not so good. And that's why one thing I'm driving this career coaching now for focusing on international partners is because I've been in that situation myself, and I have had that kind of my own frustration of having a lot of resources and capacities that's so difficult also to use. And I would say, of course, I knew Brasilia from before, so I knew it's not the best place to be as a spouse, because you have very few companies active here. It's an administrative town, basically. So all the companies, the big Swedish companies that we have in Brazil, are located in the south. So of course it's been a journey again for me, because I had a global position for Ericsson before we left. So for a long period of time, I thought I would be able to move it. But then Ericsson went into big transformation and change processes, you know, reducing. So I couldn't. And the management team I was part of was also mainly sitting in Stockholm, in Kista. So it made sense that I would not be able to continue that role. So of course that's a big frustration, you know, when I was used of having a role where I made an impact in a big organization, and then you just become the kind of spouse. You are the wife or husband of someone else that have the role, and it also have the challenges, but also the nice things, you know, the responsibilities that you have to take about the house, the kids. That takes a bit more time when you come locally. So of course it's emotionally it's been also for me an up and down journey. Even if it's not the first time I've done it before, you still get into it, even if you try to prepare yourself for it. But what I've done, and I've done it to get this time as well, is I've started this company as an experiment for myself, because I want to make an impact and support other people in the same situation, because I know how challenging it can be. And I've been trying to lobbying towards the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sweden for like, I think 20 years now, but they should invest a little bit of money, and it will have a huge positive impact for so many people. So, I do things that I think is important for me, and I know is important for others. So I spent quite some time on that. But again, I also done volunteering job. So I was the president of the American School Board for the last 2 years. So of course, then I come back into a position where I can use my expertise and competence, of course, completely voluntary. I don't earn any money from that. I spend hundreds of hours. So I also came to the conclusion, okay, I've done that now for 2 years. So now I want to go back and dedicate more time on my own business again. So it is a journey up and down, but you also need to take the opportunities and experiment and work with your network. So I also still do some volunteer work for the Brazilian NGO that I got to know 20 years ago, where I had to practice my Portuguese. And then, as I mentioned before, to find networks that are meaningful for me, where I can have meaningful conversation and also get peer support. That's also important on your journey.
Good, interesting to hear. So we just have a few more minutes to go, and I was just wondering if you you can have more than one sentence, but if you could somewhat summarize that if you are at a point in life where you have the opportunity to make a career change. It could be on your company where you're at, or you have the opportunity to move on, or at least you would want to do that, or there's a big change in life, like you recently talked about, that you moved as a spouse. Could you just summarize some good things that we could take with us moving forward?
Yeah, it's again, a very good question.
More question.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, moving with your own, set yourself up for success. Find the kind of habits that will be helpful for you. And you can Google, there's so many ways that set yourself up for habits. And I can, if someone reach out, I can happily share, some of my favorite podcasts or that I use for inspiration and as tools to be successful. But again, I think in the end, seek support. And it doesn't have to be someone like me working as a coach. It can be your best friend. It can be a family member. It can be a colleague. It can be your manager. But sometimes seek support. Don't sit by yourself. And there's so many kind of tools and templates that you could use. But it's about setting and finding your direction and starting to take action. And go small. Don't try to do big, in the beginning. It's like if you want to run a marathon and you haven't been running before, you will not start running 42 kilometers directly. You might start with a quick walk. But you find a pace that you will maybe do this quick walk, and then you will start slowly running. But you do it maybe 3 times a week or 4 times a week. But you need to find the pace. And I think I told this before, not in this meeting, but you can use simple tools. One tool is called the ABC when it comes to changing habits. And A stands for anchoring, B is for the kind of behavior you want to change, and C is for celebration. And it can be as a simple thing, I past 50, I want to keep my upper body okay. Even if I go to the gym, I sometimes miss out as frequent as I would like to, but I find a way of doing it in a regular way. So every time I've been to the bathroom, I have the goal of doing 2 push-ups at least. Sometimes I do, of course, more, but the goal is easy. It should not be difficult to do. So it's 2 push-ups. And the anchoring is when I do it. So it's when I come out of the bathroom, I do it. So you have a set situation that you will come up with regularly. And then the celebration is that I most frequently do more than 2. So then you have a positive thing going on in your brain because you exceed the goal that you have. So you don't raise the bar, you still keep the bar low. So to find that kind of behavior that are helpful for you is a tool. But again, find a toolbox or a template that suits you to actually do things. And I think, again, it's about taking action, starting doing things that will make the change happening in the end.
Perfect. And if anyone is interested to have David as a coach, you are more than welcome to reach out to Swedes Worldwide, and we will give you the contact details, of course. Thank you so much, David Wallensteen Bergknut, for being here with us today, sharing your thoughts, your experience, your insights is very valuable. And we are very grateful that you are here. And we are so hoping that you will come back again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so great to get back and see you again. And I hope it gives some kind of inspiration and some ideas to that you have been listening. And you will have a super career on your terms, but start taking action and seek support, I would say.
Perfect. And small steps.
Small steps. Small is the new big.
Perfect. Thank you once again, and thank you everyone for joining us for this Livefika. There will be more Livefikas coming up this fall. You will find them all at sviv.se. Well, we just say thank you and goodbye.